Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into the Duval Dive. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, a student of the game.
And I'm Travis Holmes with BigCatCountry.com.
And you're listening to this thing on the Believe Podcast Network. Travis, we had a fantastic stream on Wednesday. I don't think anybody's going to question that. And if they do, well, that's a them problem. Make sure you check out the Duval Dive stream, such as we have it. Shouts to our new members on the YouTube channel. Glad to have you aboard. With that's fantastic. But here's the thing, Travis. We had so much going on Wednesday night, and we touched on this lightly. But there's too many of you Duval divivers. I mixed Duval devout and Duval divers together. Divivers. That's great. There's too many of you Duval devout out there, and a lot of them aren't divers. That's why I'm segregating you here. Okay, you guys as fans are saying fan stuff. Okay, you're pounding the table, and I think credit to Big Cat Country, giving a place for Travis, my personal champion here, to express himself in written form with the SB Nation site, such that it is. This comment from there, and I'm going to read this before I lose my entire mind. But MNK Man 322, technically, we, the Jaguars, still don't have an established wide receiver one, so that could still be on the table come draft day. Interesting. Could see the team admitting Tootin isn't a halfback one and drafting someone at 56. Right. And depending on what happens with Patrick Kari and Walker Little, we could still be looking at right guard one come draft day. Oh my gosh. Which leaves defensive tackle one, safety one, edge two. Let me repeat, edge two, edge three, as needs that make opportunity cost sense at pick 56 on defense. So I'm going to lead with this, Travis.
Jeez.
Let's acknowledge the guy says that Trayvon Walker isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Or if he's one of these that thinks Josh Hines-Allen is nothing more than our favorite piece here, Pressures Man. This is the likes of overreaction that's out there in these streets, and it's driving me absolutely nuts.
I like MNK Man. Like, he makes some great points in the Big Cat Country comments, and I follow him on X also. I just forget his username, but the gist of it is he's one of the guys.
I'm not making fun of him.
He's one of the guys who believes in analytics to a core. I mean, it's just about advanced analytics in depth. And so I will give him credit when he says something. He believes it. Even if the guy is successful on the field, he'll say this guy's bad because fill in the blank advanced analytics. He's generally that guy. So I see a lot of fans that's out there that's making a lot of strong takes. For instance, the wide receiver one conversation, talking about, I'll just start there. That was the first comment for NK Man. From my perspective, was discussing the wide receiver room and whether or not the Jacksonville Jaguars have a bona fide wide receiver room or wide receiver one. So maybe that's something that can be on the radar, which came up in Wednesday's Duval Dive Pod. We talked about the fact that if best available player is a wide receiver at 56, would that mean you draft that guy? And I think we landed on, hey man, if that's truly a tier above the rest, and he's the best available player there, even if he's your wide receiver 4 entering the season, and we'll see if he can compete and earn that wide receiver 1 spot, I guess you got to go and draft him.
I also heard you say that you should probably trade the pick, but that's another conversation.
Also, but exactly, that's that. But also, this Jacksonville Jaguars team is kind of showing you they don't need a wide receiver 1. They need a guy who can stretch the field, because at the end of the day, Brian Thomas Jr.'s existence is what allowed Parker Washington to flourish in the ways that he did, and Jacoby Myers to flourish in the way that they did, because we saw the Buffalo Bills game where they leaned to safety nearly every every third down conversion towards Brian Thomas Jr. because he was being treated like a number 1, which meant Parker Washington was able to get some favorable coverage as your wide receiver 3 because he's not facing the other team's number 1 on most snaps, or on all the snaps, if that makes sense. So maybe you don't need a wide receiver 1 if you have a lot of good wide receiver 2s who can beat up on another team's, cornerback 4, cornerback 3, or safety 2, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and first of all, with the bleep pocket is somewhere high, that being the reality of it is the realization that Parker Washington is running crisp routes and beating dudes that are lower on the depth chart among the DBs. That's a case in point. I don't think they're putting linebackers on Parker Washington, which, by the way, this is why we're having conversations about tight end being more of a need than edge two. Because then this would put Brenton Strange and whoever the other tight end would be. Today it's Quentin
Morris. Yeah,
Quentin Morris. Thank you. And that scenario, getting another tight end that's a more of a pass catching, aka Brenton Strange type, would make sense, because then now you're picking on a linebacker that might be worse at coverage than whoever they put on Brenton Strange. There's some there. Okay. I would also offer too, people get really hung up with wide receiver one on what the definition of a wide receiver one is. What they really mean is the top off the defense guy. And Brian Thomas Jr. is obviously that. If you want to make the argument that, assuming they don't play Travis Hunter all that much on offense, which I think it's going to happen more than people think. We've had that conversation a lot here on the Duval Dive. I think Travis Hunter does enough to bring the other side. De'Ami Brown is still on the roster, even though he's not. Okay, well then that's fair enough. I'm glad you corrected me there.
Well, yeah, it was a 1-year contract, so he's done.
Oh,
he's
right.
no longer, he's a free agent right now.
Why did I think it was a 2-year? Anyways, fine, whatever. They still have two guys that are pretty fast that can take the top off. So you got two guys that can take the top off, and a guy that, here's the part I know for a fact, made the team better in Jakobi Meyers off the bat.
Yes,
you're looking just at optics and silliness at this point. Sure,
but that was our separation podcast that we had with Daniel Griffiths last week. Yeah, exactly. Separation anxiety. Like, that was the conversation about the wide receiver group that we have in Jacksonville. Like, if you truly believe that Travis Hunter is not going to be playing as much wide receiver, cool. That's fine, because that was what was expressed or reported from the team. But that doesn't mean that Travis Hunter is playing no wide receiver in 2025 and 2026. So cool. If he's playing wide receiver some, even if it's less than all the time that 70% snaps, 65% snaps that he played in 2025, he still will give you another vertical threat on very many of your primary passing downs, your third down scenarios, your fourth down and gotta have it, etc. So I still think that they'll be fine as far as that's concerned. As far as quote unquote wide receiver one, I still don't necessarily agree with that piece.
Yeah, over and above that, neither have seemed to agree with it. Let's bring in this there too, because it transitions nicely to could see the team admitting Tootin isn't an HB1 and drafting someone at 56. Well, maybe this comment was made pre-Rodriguez, but now that's a factor too. So having a more effective running core, you now have a more effective by default receiver core as well.
Yeah, but it was made pre-Chris Rodriguez signing, but nevertheless, Chris Rodriguez generally would not be the person who I would think you would bring in that would stop you from drafting another guy if you fell in love with him. So, like, I think that they would give him the opportunity to truly earn that, because I think this staff has shown everyone clearly that they do believe in competition at its core. So he is the thunder to Bashaw Tutin's lightning. But if they fall in love with a Jonah Coleman, or they fall in love with, I don't know, Claiborne from or whoever the next running back might be in those middle rounds of the NFL draft.
Black, right? I mean, let's get back on the train.
My guy, yeah. But in the second round feels a little rich unless you truly love this guy. And even the Rams generally didn't, and James Gladstone in his career generally has not drafted guys that high at running back. It's normally been third round and later. So I'd probably assume, based on the makeup of this Jacksonville Jaguars, organization of this Jacksonville Jaguars roster, that they're probably going for the bigger guys, because the big guys, like we talked about Wednesday, cost big money, costs high draft picks. And if you really want them to invest in the bigger guys that's paid by the pound, then you got to bring them in early. You got to draft them at 50. Maybe that's 56, an interior offensive lineman, an offensive tackle, swing tackle that can compete at the top, or maybe a defensive tackle. You can find a 3 technique.
But there's a whole load of astrology here that you're talking about with that pick being a running back. All this has to align, and this has to work, and this has to be a thing. to supplement a room that's already crowded as hell with what we have there so far. Because, like, they better not be getting Hines-Allen. I'm about to be pissed. You want to see me go off, okay? Listen, but and here's the thing. I need to get used to the fact of taking my own advice, fall in like, not in love. A, B,
That's it.
Ain't no one safe. And I've said this, ain't no one safe in the Gladstone era if they ain't doing their damn job. But Hines-Allen is. So what are we doing?
It's not even about whether or not you do your job. So again, I want to be consistent on where my thoughts are on this. I like the Hines-Allen. I like Bashaw Tootin. I liked what Chris Rodriguez put on film in Washington, as I told you guys on Wednesday, before all of this. Like, I actually watched every game but one of his in the 2025 season that he started in Washington. So I can objectively say I actually did like what he put on film. None of these guys are stopping me from drafting a guy after that if I end up loving them in the NFL draft. And I want to be honest and say that.
That's a big
spot. I'm just saying, if you get the right running back and there's nobody who was just close to that class, and I'm not going to put a name on it just yet because it depends on how the draft class would fall. I would then be like, no, I'm sorry. I love these guys. I guess we're going to have 4 good running backs and we're going to figure it out.
But this is astrology. A lot of stars have to align. That's what I keep hearing.
Competition is all that matters. I want to raise the ceiling of this roster, and if that means I need game changers, and if I can get a game changer, I'm sorry, I like you, but that don't mean you're gonna be on the roster. I'm sure they like Tank Bigsby in a lot of ways, but he ain't here.
Well, that wasn't a Coen pick either. But I'll say this. It's more likely that there's a defensive tackle that they fall in love with, that they trade up that pick to get, than there is that they get a running back at that spot. That's what I would posit.
Yeah, that's fair. Caleb Banks, Peter Woods. Let's say Peter Woods drops into the 20s, or you say, "Come on." That's a serious conversation.
No, I'm saying it to agree with you. Come on, man.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Peter Woods drops into the 20s, maybe even the high second round, you think there's no chance that James Gladstone won't be on the phone trying to make that happen? Or the same thing applies to Caleb Banks?
Yeah, damn right.
Absolutely. 2-3 technique options in the light draft class with a light free agency cycle. So that makes total sense to me. And then we start getting into the right guard conversation with Patrick McCarry.
Before you get there, this is one place where we do agree that the D tackle one is a need. I don't think anybody's arguing that. But go ahead, yeah, the guard conversation,
especially at 56. Come on, Correct. That's an easy one, especially with this free agency class and John Franklin Myers signing for $21 freaking million, robbing the Tennessee Titans. Congratulations, dude! Get that money.
Good for you, Johnny. You know,
yes, we love when you get paid $6 million more than what you actually should have gotten. That works, especially in Tennessee.
More on that.
Mess up their cap as best you can. Anyway, but yeah, so the right guard position with Patrick McCarry. I mean, obviously he got restructured this season, but that means he will be on the roster, but that he's a swing everything. He's a swing tackle, he's a swing guard. He can even be a third string or second string center if you need him. And if he ends up losing his spot to, let's say, a Wyatt Milam or Walker Little or whoever. So to that point, yeah, you can upgrade guard. If they have the right one, that makes sense to me.
This is what I don't get about this particular comment. I respect that people among the Duval devout complain about Walker Little. God bless it. There's a lot of times and places, and I may even still be one that joins them on a regular basis on the basis of his contract that Littlefinger issued him. Yes, I mean Trent Baalke.
Yes.
But to act like Walker Little and Patrick McCarry and Wyatt Milam as a trio don't acknowledge that, again, there's always competition, to your very well-made point, Travis. But to list guard as a need on the right side at this point is a bit much compared to the other stuff that you have on your roster. I'm just going to throw that out there.
Is it? It's the bane. Honestly, it's got to be a top 1, if not top 2 issue for the offense. I don't think that's necessarily a disagreement. And I think
depends. Well, okay. First of all, I think a second tight end's a bigger need. I'm going to maintain this in a Liam Coen offense.
Which he doesn't list, which I thought was interesting. Yeah, tight end at all.
And I'll say this. I would make right guard is the next biggest need on offense. For an offense, it's pretty bleeding good. And again, you're going to keep and correctly continue to beat me over the head with Liam Coen, always competition, sure. But there's already 3 dudes competing for it. What are we doing?
that's also fair if you believe in development, but maybe you don't. And I can understand that also. Maybe you believe that Walker Little is what you're going to see because you ain't going to develop in strength no time soon. Or maybe you believe Patrick McCarry is what you've seen and he's not going to be healthy all of a sudden because he had health issues in Baltimore. He's having health issues in his first year in Jacksonville. I can understand that also. Mm-hmm. And maybe you just don't know what you'd have in Wyatt Milam and you don't want to risk it. And you just rather bring in another guy who has a higher ceiling. I understand all these points, but they're all coming from a place of fear, which is what we talked about on Wednesday. That's what this is. This is all coming from. It's not perfect, so it needs to be perfect because we have this, and I can take and I can point and I can poke and I can prod at this. Every NFL team can do that. You look at every NFL team. There's a place where they spent a boatload of money, and there's other places where they put band-aids because they couldn't afford everything, and they duct tape and Elmer's glue figured it out. And I'm not saying that should be the case. I'm not saying that folks should be happy with everything and every move that is made, but I am saying that this is something that literally every team around the NFL is going through and every fan base is going through. And I don't think having three guys are competing at the right guard position to hopefully raise the ceiling of that role is a bad situation right now, especially if they could bring in a guard in the draft.
And that's where I would push back a little bit. You say every team is experiencing this when they can pull and prod. Yeah, sort of. But the ones that are making the big moves and are paying out the big money for a desperation fill of a spot all seem to have something in common. That is the wrong window I'm trying to show. There we go. Looking at this list, Travis, all these teams are pretty bad. There's only one here. Yes, I said only one here, Patriots fans. There's only one team here.
Wait. So to our audio listeners, just so you know, we are currently looking at a list of the top 9 free agencies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, said it right. First, the top 9 spenders in free agency in the 2026 offseason. And the top of it is the Tennessee Titans and the Raiders, the Colts, the Commanders, the Panthers, the Saints, the Patriots make the list as the 7th highest spender, the Giants, and then closing it out with the Ravens.
Now, I think it's important to mention with the Patriots there too. They've also moved on from a big money guy in the form of Stephon Diggs. I think that matters.
Sure, they moved on from him, but that don't mean that he don't have a dead cap. No, and he also has some legal issues that probably has something to do with the things. But at the end of the day, you show me the first team that you consider as being a really good team that's there.
I think the one on the bottom is the Ravens, and there's some questions there because their defense has been so bad
and injuries, and they lost so many guys that they had to replace that you're not even sure what that team is going to be. And the Patriots playing the weakest schedule in the history of the NFL last year, and that might have that team should not be a Super Bowl team. That's in most NFL years. That team they're in the wild card round, they lose, or they're in the divisional round, best case scenario, and they get upset. Like that's for the most part what you could. They didn't play anybody the entire season, so I'm not considering that a Super Bowl. That's not a good team. It's about an average team. So out of these 9 teams, you're looking at 7 of them just are not good for the most part. And that's what normally takes place is the teams who spend the most money are the teams with the worst rosters trying to figure out a way to get back to balance, get back to being a 500 team or better. That's not the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, they absolutely have holes to fill, especially with where Trent Baalke originally left it, but they just won 13 games. And they're trying their best to be a draft and develop team, still trying to be involved in trades and things of that nature, as we talked about on Wednesday. But for the most part, they told you from Jump Street who they are. Draft and develop. Well, we ain't at the draft yet.
Yeah. And I think that's the other piece. That's a good place to land the plane here, Travis, is there's still so much time to still do things right at this point. Last year, granted, Liam Coen just got in the building. Essentially, he wasn't necessarily blowing the world up with moves yet. He would eventually have at least 10 trades, which we had the show about the top 10 trades for Liam Coen. So make sure you check that out and see if you agree with us there. But then the draft came last year. He had the F them picks and did the whole thing and made some moves, obviously. There were some other moves over and above F them picks, let the record show. No, nobody seems to remember them, and I don't blame them. But at day's end, that pick being maneuvered for such a fashion made the splash that everybody was looking for later, and all was forgiven, right? I think it's a similar concept here, Travis. There's still time. Everybody seems convinced that Liam Coen will trade his way into the first round. I don't know if that'll happen, but I definitely don't think 56 is going to be his first pick. That I agree with, right?
Yeah.
So there's still plenty of time.
If they trade up into the 40s, that makes sense to me. And also, they having so many picks in the third round, I wouldn't be shocked if they traded from 81 or 88 up until having a second pick in the second round or something like that. Maybe they
especially
just
having two of them that close together. That's a great point, buddy.
Yeah, in such a draft, in a draft that has, what is it, picks, what did they say it was, picks 25 through like 70 or 25 through like 75 all have like the same rated players, because they had it was such a non-top heavy draft, where it's just like these are all second round guys for like a whole round and a half, 2 rounds. Cool. Then maybe Liam Coen doesn't want to trade up. Maybe he's just like, I want to load up on picks through that range, and instead of picking at 88 and 81, I just want to have like 3 picks all in that 25 to 65 range or something along those lines, and you have more bites at the apple. I understand that also. So to wrap that back, just to circle back to his last comment asking about pick 56, when he said safety 1, edge 2, and edge 3 makes sense as an opportunity cost to maybe get cheaper on your roster and get some higher tier talent. Maybe that's the goal. Maybe that's what he was coming from. Not saying that he didn't like Travon Walker. Maybe he just doesn't want to pay Travon Walker and get a younger guy in. Because he said opportunity cost. So I'm wondering if that's what he's talking about. Maybe just being a roster that's limited on cash. He was just saying that instead of paying Travon Walker, you draft a second guy, or you draft a third guy there, so that you don't end up having to pay a big cost on his contract negotiations.
That's nice of you trying to interpret.
I'm trying to find
that's you're being very magnanimous. Tonight, Kyle is being petty. Hey.
Okay.
The dude straight up uses the word need for edge 2. Stop it now.
Well, then that would be the same argument to say safety 1, because he doesn't want to pay Antonio Johnson next year. I can understand that too.
And there's a lot of skepticism on Antonio Johnson. I can hear the argument that Antonio Johnson's unproven. Nobody, and I mean nobody, has said that of a healthy Travon Walker that's credible. Okay. And now, to your point, if he actually means somebody in the wings ready to take over, if they move off of JHA or Travon Walker to save cash in the future, fine. That's not what he said here. But if that's what he meant, cool. I could sort of get behind that. I mean, I'm 6'5". I can reach pretty far, sure. So,
but the Duval fan base seems to be pretty much 100. I can't say 100%, but the guys over at SB Nation, which is BigCatCountry.com, they had the recent poll where 61% of the voting base decided that the Jacksonville Jaguars should target at pick number 56 defensive line. So 61% of respondents stated the defensive line was the primary target for the Jaguars pick number 56, with defensive back being 19%, because this was right before the Montaric Brown news took place, unless folks really just don't believe in the safety room, which I doubt. 11% offensive line and 9% linebacker, which I'm shocked about. 9% linebacker, really?
I think people are just that phased by Lloyd moving. They don't know the future of, and I think this might have been before Gardzak was locked down too. That's probably worth mentioning as well, I'm guessing.
I mean, that just feels like they still believe in Ventrell Miller and Jack Kaiser, I guess.
I mean, everybody keeps leaving out Foye. Like,
and Yasir Abdullah, my bad. You're right.
I'm even seeing headlines for other podcasts featuring Jack Kaiser. Like, we're going there. All the other cats that are on here, you're going with Jack Kaiser. I mean, that's cool and all. Like, is that the right time to use this graphic?
Jack Kaiser, absolutely. Get that man his credit.
But so you didn't think I was going to go with the John Travolta
I got you
on that one, did you? But yeah, I think, and this isn't me calling out SB Nation such that it is, But what makes this, I'm calling the graphic up here, the fact that they worded it defensive line envelops that edge 3, which is absolutely a need, right? So that statement is enveloping the biggest need and another huge need. Now, if they had a survey that had defensive line, defensive end, corner, and then linebacker, I would have been miffed that you didn't have offensive line in the top 4. And then also, I think that would change the numbers too.
No, that's fair. The edge 3 conversation and the fact that the Jaguars have been limited at edge 3 for
some time.
I don't even know how many years now. I mean, since they lost Arden Key, basically, to the Tennessee Titans. So that was since 2023, 2024, 2025, 3 years straight. The Jaguars have needed an edge 3 and have not been able to get one. So I can understand that, while also missing a pass rush presence at that spot that's normally held by Devon Hamilton. That's a pretty bad combination in a passing league. I get it. So overall, I can understand a lot of that part of the comment. So again, it wasn't all hate, and it wasn't all freak out, but some of it was
a lot of freak out there.
Little extra. Some of it was not as much. But a lot of it is a lot of the things that I've actually heard out in the rest of the fan base, talking to you guys on the Discord, or on TikTok, or in the YouTube comments here at the Duval Dive. So I thought this was a one good comment that kind of just encompassed everything that I've kind of heard out in the fan base, if that made sense.
Yeah, there was I like, and again, I even mentioned some things that M and K said that I liked, but overall, like edge 2 is a need. What are we doing here? Come on,
edge 2 is a need where the contract and negotiations and the Jaguars cap situation are.
Listen,
then maybe again, if that's the argument, I can see it being a need that's coming, whether or not we want to acknowledge it. Maybe at that's
your age. You don't need to be trying to bend like that for this dude. Okay, like you get over backwards and everything, dog. Don't hurt yourself now. Come on now.
But to everybody who's just ready for the Jaguars to do something, to make big moves, whatever else, just remember the conversation that we had surrounding free agency. If they do something, it doesn't have to be the biggest moves on the roster. The biggest moves may just be as a result of a trade, because that does not impact their potential comp picks that we talked about on Wednesday, a 4th rounder, a 5th rounder, and a 6th rounder that they may be getting granted by the league. That's what the current projections are as far as over the cap is concerned. So, I mean,
Travis, just ask the Duval Devout. Do you want to be like the Titans? I don't think you want to be like the Titans. I wouldn't want to be like
the Titans. The Titans are like Trent Baalke. The Titans, they're sounding very Trent Baalke right now. And they may end up having a solid 2026. And I need folks to don't fall for the hype. Don't fall for it. Like, you've seen this before. They bring a boatload of free agents in. They raise up a little bit just to become a 2 games below 500 competitive team, and folks start believing. And I'm like, don't do it. I'm telling you this. I can see this from a mile away. Folks gonna be like, oh, they're good, and I'm like, no, they're just gonna play a sorry schedule, and then they're gonna lose the next season, because this is how this works. Like, that's the Titans. They are Trent Baalke Jaguars right now. That's what that is.
I have Denzel Washington's assistant coach from the Remember the Titans in my head. I don't want you to make another free agent acquisition. You draft all night until they forget that the Titans did anything at all in offseason.
But I haven't seen it happen. I haven't seen it happen to a better organization. Yeah, I'm happy that they are very Trent Baalke-ish right now. Because again, I don't just cover the Jaguars. I'm a fan of this team, so I'm a little petty on the inside. It is what it is.
So, gosh, with that in mind, pettiness is a great way to end the pod. Let the world where you and your pettiness can be found, sir.
You can find all my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars, BigCatCountry.com. And please lock it in, save it as your favorites. And if you're listening to us here on the Duval Dive, please click that like button before you leave the stream. Please comment. I mean, help us out there, because again, these podcasts happen because of stuff that you guys are talking about, whether it's, in our chat here, in the, YouTube comments, on the TikTok, on the Duval Dive, on X, or even on my socials, Travis D. Holmes on all the socials, or Kyle, the student of the game, on most of your major socials. I believe you're probably on all of them at this point.
At the SOTG, you got a point, my friend.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, just lock it in and continue talking to us, and especially as we enter this, draft season, this dead zone that's coming after the initial burst of free agency. These podcasts happen because of this, what you guys are talking about. So tell us what you're talking about. You talk to us, we're going to talk back and keep this thing moving. Travis on all the socials, bigcatcountry.com. Click the like button and let them know where you can be found, bro.
Of course, if you're feeling frisky, you could always become a member here on the Duval Dive. We'd appreciate that as well. Of course, I am Kyle Nash, the Student of the Game. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads, as well as Blue Sky at the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as a Student of the Game. Check out my work covering UCF football and basketball with Locked On UCF in the Night Zone, UCFNightZone.com. Shouts to Mike Giddens, who runs that outfit over there. And of course, my work covering the Orlando Magic, who are now, as you see this 5-game winning streak, hoping to make it 6 games while I'm in attendance there as they battle the Washington Wizards on Thursday night. So thank you all, you Duval devout. Thank you, you Duval divers. Thank you to my personal champion, Travis D. Holmes. Until next time, everyone, class dismissed.